We will start our program in just a minute.
And we are live.
All right, Todd, let's get it going, my man. How are you doing?
Hey, what's happening?
Yeah, just ready to have an awesome call. So Ray, welcome to the Tuesday interview. This is the first time we're doing it in Zoom. So super pumped. We've been doing our Friday call in Zoom, but this is the first time we're doing the Tuesday interview in Zoom. And really the goal was to make it a more interactive experience. So it's like more community, more video, and also we could share it on Facebook Live. So this is the very first time that we have been sharing this call on Facebook Live in our Facebook group. So I hope some people are tuned in, and I hope you guys engage. Todd Duncan, welcome to the call, my brother.
Hey, man, good to be part of the first Zoom and Facebook Live. I feel honored. I feel honored.
Well, you and I have done a lot of firsts together. You know,
This is true.
I think I went to the first Sales Mastery going on 26 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
I lit up and introduced Mortgage Coach into the wild from
to the wild
to there together the first time, and gosh, I mean, we could go on and on with first time. So, you know, it's a very interesting time in the space. You know, we've both seen ups and downs. We've seen challenges and opportunity, but it is different right now. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's a 10-year wake-up call. You know, I mean, we've had a 10-year run where nothing really mattered except you could do a lot of loans, right? And you know, with refis going away, cash out only, with the market compressing, with companies running out of money, with the fear about loan officer survival. Those are all very real things that we're seeing right now in the marketplace. And so, you know, today is about how do we disrupt the norm right now? How do we disrupt fear? How do we disrupt trend? How do we disrupt the confluence and the influence of digitalization and still use it as an incredible tool? And then how do we keep high trust alive in a world that desperately needs it? I mean, it's, you know, everything's changed, Dave, but nothing's different at the end of the day.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I think in our community, and it's fortunate here at Mortgage Coach, that price compression is creating more rate shopping, is creating more necessities to execute best practices. You know, how do you optimize conversion rate? You and I have been talking about this, teaching it, masterminding. You know, we created the total cost analysis, which is the ultimate lead conversion experience. And so I think it's very appropriate, you know, disruptive selling. And I'm really looking forward to hearing these, you know, 5 decisions to owning your future. I want to set that up with everybody on this call. Your future, it's like a race to 2020. You know, I do believe the mortgage industry will be very, very different. You know, every local lender is deploying their technology stack. You know, they're creating automation at the front end. The ones that win will be the ones that have the best adoption. So Todd, I don't know your 5 decisions. This is going to be the first time I've heard it.
Trust, man, trust.
Yeah, but I'll trust you. But I do know that high trust and Mortgage Coach, it's never been a better time for both of us. So I'm really looking forward to unpacking that.
Yeah.
Now, one more thing, folks. This is interactive. Todd's going to drive us through about a 25-minute keynote conversationally, and then we want to have lots of interaction. We want questions from you. You can post those in Zoom. You can post those in our Facebook group. I've already got one question teed up from a post this morning. So Todd, why don't you rock it out? Walk us through your 5 decisions to be disruptive salespeople.
Let me grab the slides. They were teed up here for a second, and now they're gone. So just a second here.
And remember, folks, this is a great opportunity to start thinking of what questions do you have for Todd and I. I know I saw a question earlier. It's like, hey, I'm getting lots of leads from realtors, but I don't really like the way they're being referred to me. You know, and Todd and I will talk about that on the back end of the call. But if you do have questions for us, put them in Facebook, put them in Q&A, and looks like Todd's got his slides teed up and ready to roll.
There we go. So the idea behind unlocking your future, I mean, you know, Jim Rohn told me when I was a 24-year-old loan officer, he said, the future's coming. The biggest question you have to ask and answer is, where will you be when it arrives, right? And so the future, for any of us that have been in the business any length of time, the future's here, and the decision is, are you ready, and are you changing at a fast enough pace? You probably have seen this photo from time to time. I like it because it talks a lot about kind of what's happening right now. It talks about, particularly with Mortgage Coach power users and total cost analysis and advice-centric kind of business practices. It really talks about how well are you defining your different modalities and offers in the marketplace. And not only do you have to be game ready, you have to be really, really good today, but you got to be different. You really, really have to be different. And so what I want to talk about for maybe just 15 minutes is the idea of how do you disrupt you before you adopt disruptive strategies. And that's really the big question. And so one of the thoughts that I think is important, this comes from Mark Benioff, who's the CEO of Salesforce. And I'm going to make a claim here that high trust is needed more than ever. And what Benioff said with a Jim Cramer interview probably 3 or 4 months ago, he said, if trust is not my highest value, especially with all of this amazing new technology and all the changes it is bringing my customers or consumers, then how am I leading? If everything is important to you, then nothing is important. And I think the question is, for you and for me and Dave, for you as a leader and for all the people that are in the ecosystem of Mortgage Coach, how are you leading? And I will tell you today, without any hesitation whatsoever, in the disruptive environment we find ourselves in right now, trust is the mother lode. It is the catalyst for all things great. And if you don't have technology trust, if you don't have relational trust, if you don't have emotional trust, if you don't have those, then you have nothing and you will lose. So the idea behind this then is what are the changes that you need to make, and the idea about staying ahead of those changes. And so this disruptive tendency is about really not waiting for things to happen. It is to make a decision today that you are going to change your own game. In fact, Dave, our theme for Sales Mastery this year is game changers. And the idea that we cannot solve the problems today that face us in the industry at the same level of thinking as my friend Einstein over my shoulder said, we can't solve them at the same level of thinking that these challenges were created. We have to think uniquely and differently. So one of the things we're going to be talking to leaders about in a week when we go to our leadership conference, Achieving Leadership Excellence in Hawaii, is the idea of change and how do we initiate change. And, for anybody that's an LO, I mean, how do you really look at your business practices right now? And how do you think very thoroughly about what does this look like in 3 months? What's it look like by the end of the year? Certainly what does it look like as we head into 2019? And I think you're right, Dave, the 2020 clock is ticking, and it's going to be, the next 18 months are going to be massively disruptive. I can predict that right now. I don't know what all the disruptions are, but it is happening. So whatever you decide to change today, whatever new realtor strategy you put into play, whatever new consumer direct strategy you put into play, whatever you do today, it's going to cause this thing called lag. And you'll notice here on this green growth curve that, halfway up, maybe a little bit past halfway up, here's the mature life cycle. We're going to decide to do some things differently on this call today. And when I re-envision the future, it brings this idea of lag, which is time and energy and money. Growth is a little bit slow. It's a little bit uncomfortable. It's something that's new. But if I'm going to bet the farm on something long-term, I have to have the short-term pain and discomfort that creates the long-term gain. You'll notice that the industry, I think, at large, and I think most individuals wait too long to change. And you'll see on the downward side of the green kind of life cycle, if you will, birth on the far left and death on the far right, you'll notice that a lot of people are being forced to change, but they're being forced to change to the extent that they don't have an option, because if they don't change, they're going to be out of business. And we're seeing a very, very large struggle today with a lot of the independent mortgage banks. We're seeing a reemergence of the banks. We're seeing the brokers coming back. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we're seeing a lot of people right now kind of clawing at the surface, to figure out how they're going to survive. And what ends up happening is if you are in a deceleration mode, or if the business is off a little bit, or if you haven't figured out how to uniquely be different in the marketplace, then vision and risk and energy and community, like we have here at Mortgage Coach, can actually be your safety net, and it can be the thing that brings you back. And so with that as kind of a backdrop, there's two things that I watch high performers really get their head around. And I wanted just to unpack these for a moment, and then we can jump into these 5 disruptive ideas. We understand that there is this thing called our why factor, right? And I'm putting it in the slide kind of algebraically. Most often you will see this as WHY, and yet I want to have you understand that the why factor is really your individual core motive for being what you are. And if you haven't thought about that halfway through the year, if you haven't really looked at deep down inside, what is your core motive for being as a mortgage professional? What are you really, really trying to achieve? And in this season of your life that's coming up, how are you going to be unique and different? And what is that kind of internal payoff that you're actually looking for? And then we have this thing called our X factor, and this is where it's going to get disruptive. Our X factor is really our Y factor focused in an exponential way to change the world. What world? Well, the local world in which you live, the community in which you serve, depending on whether or not you are an originator or a leader. It could be a larger geographical area. It could be a vertical market that you serve. But essentially what X is I'm going to take my Y factor and I'm going to focus it in a way that creates exponential change to the key parts of my world that are important. So what this does is it sets up this tug of war that all of us have. I have it, Dave has it, everybody watching this on Facebook has it. Y battles X. So Y is my internal core motive for being. X is that Y focused in an exponential way. And there's going to be a battle between Y and X until X gives Y what it wants. So think of X as what I'm doing in the business, and think of Y, the Y factor, as to anything that is unresolved in your life in terms of completeness, fulfillment, reward, return, difference making, whatever it is. And so there's this constant tug of war. What we're watching right now as the market shifts is we're watching top producers get uber clear on this idea that few things matter most, and I have to be in the most, which is X, to give me most of the Y that I want. So as you think about this, there's an ongoing constant battle between Y and X. It's never over. It's just constantly dynamic. And it's interesting that everything we do or don't do, everything we ignore or we embrace, everything that we procrastinate on or activate on, everything has an impact on what we have to do or not do next, right? So if I don't, for example, have real clarity today about conversion, if I don't have, if I haven't studied the playbook, the Mortgage Coach conversion playbook, which by the way, Dave, I love, if I haven't studied that and I'm ignoring that as part of my X, then what it essentially says is I've got to deal now with rate struggle, lower conversion, new follow-up systems, this, that, or the other thing. Or I need to deal with it later, okay? And if I ignore it now, then later becomes more important, and that's where this tug-of-war occurs. So when we talk about disruptive selling, what we're talking about is really decisions, so that what I do now prevents me from having to do anything reactive later. And these 5 things have become the absolute precedent for the future. And some of them aren't new, not surprisingly, Dave, but executing them is new and it's different. So the mindset is your X factor. And this is where I think that what we're doing with Mortgage Coach, and certainly what we're doing at Sales Mastery this year, this is where I think it gets really, really exciting. Your X factor is defined as the fewest moves with the greatest impact. As you think about your business, what are the fewest things that you can do that actually have the greatest impact? And what we see starting to happen is a real migration away from multiple activities. And this part isn't new. Multiple activities. The top producer is getting more and more and more and more and more focused on the fewest things that actually have the most catalytic impact on his or her business, and therefore then his or her life. So that's the Y and the X thing. That's the Y and the X thing. So when you think about that, and you think about disruption, and you think about changing the game, which again is the theme at Mastery this year, you have to look to examples, I think, that are in the marketplace. This is something that I shared with our elite group in March in Pebble Beach, and I'm going to share it with you briefly. You guys can check him out online, but this is called Hell or High Water. It was in Men's Fitness magazine about 7 months ago. And it's a story about this guy named Mark Visser. And, growing up as a kid, he was afraid of the ocean, never ever surfed as a kid. When he was 12 years old, he took up a surfboard and started surfing, found that he was fascinated by surfing, even though he was still afraid of the ocean. And it ends up cataloging how he conquered the ultimate fear, which was to ride the most dangerous wave in the world. And then you can see the ... on your slide, in the dark. And it was a whole story about how to use his blueprint as a way to turn your daydreams into a reality. And so, Dave, I'm gonna send this PDF to you, and you can distribute this to your community and to your group. But I wanna say something.
Todd, real quick, because questions are coming in. Folks, Todd is going to provide the PDF to us. If you're watching this on video, there'll be a link down below. So you're watching this in YouTube, link below to Todd's slides. And also, folks, we will put this in the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind group. Keep it rolling, Todd. I just wanted to get that out there because a lot of people are asking.
So he made a decision. What could I do that has never, ever been done? And that's the question I want to pose to you. And it may not be the ultimate one thing, but I want to pose it to you. He decided that he would ride the biggest wave set in the world, which is Jaws. And he decided that he was going to ride it in pitch black. Now, Jaws waves are anywhere between 40 and 60 feet high. They are scary mother waves. They are unimaginably strong and dangerous and powerful. And to do it in the morning at 2:30 a.m. has never even been conceptually thought of. And it took him a year to prepare. And I'm not going to get into the depths of the story because we'll give you the whole PDF on this. But he ends up pulling this off, and he ends up riding the wave. And here's a picture of him in the middle of the wave at night with his headlamp on, and you can see him just coming down this crushing wave. He's got helicopters, he's got rescue people. He did what you see right now on the screen that night 14 times in total. And my point to this is nobody had ever done it before. So what can you do that has never been done before? Or how can we do what is being done at a level so superior that we don't have competition? That's really the question here. So when Mark Visser pulled this off, and when he got this worldwide acclaim for this, just like anything that is done the first time, it can be done the second time. There's more believers, there's more adoption, there's more embracing of the ideas that actually work. And so part of this disruptive selling process today is how can we take whatever is out there that is a practice that you're engaged in, and assuming it is a best practice, then how can we 50-foot wave it? How can we answer the question, what is your 50-foot wave? What is your 50-foot wave as you work with agents? What is your 50-foot wave as you have buyer consults? What is your 50-foot wave when you reinvigorate your commitment to TCA and high trust and the total borrower experience? When you think about your 50-foot wave, what is, because part of conversion I saw in the playbook is part of this 5-star service, what is that for you? What does that actually look like? What is your 50-foot wave as you serve the community and serve borrowers? How can you do something right now that has never been done, or do what you're doing at a level where you eliminate your competitors? That's the balance of our time here together today, Dave. So I want to use that as a setup to get everybody thinking kind of the right way about how do we take what is normal and make it abnormally powerful? How do we think about things that aren't being done and launch them into a marketplace that is in dire need of disruption? And how do we as a community own this at the highest level of trust possible? So that's what we'll spend the balance of our time on, buddy.
Well, let's keep it going, guys. And by the way, if you are doing something new, whether it's you think it's completely new and there's no loan officer in your market you've seen do it and you're willing to share it, let us know. And then to Todd's point, it may be something that you kind of know you should have done, like the total cost analysis, upgrading how you deliver rates and fees and help families make better decisions. But if there is something new that you're currently working on, let us know. Share it down below in chat, put it in our Zoom question and answer area, and I'll bring that into the conversation in just a few minutes. Keep it going, Todd.
So I put these together to have you begin to think about, what does it really look like if I really own my future? What is my X factor? What are the fewest moves I can make that have the absolute greatest impact, bar none? And I put them in the form of decisions that are actually questions. So decision number one, it's a decision that you have to make, and you have to make it today, is how can I add more value? I mean, that essentially is the absolute core DNA of future-proofing your business. Edison said, do not try to become a person of success, but rather become a person of value. And what I would like for you to be thinking is, I'd like you to be thinking about how much value, when you really stop and think about it, how much value beyond getting the deal done and getting it done well, how much value are you actually adding? And how can you go into your value added think tank, and how can you outthink anybody in terms of your value deliverables? And it's not often that LOs are actually sitting down and thinking beyond the performance optics of being bankable, being reliable, being credible, getting the deal done. That isn't even considered value anymore. That's considered bare minimum. And the time frame in which that is happening is becoming even more important. So it's outside of that, right? It's outside of just doing deals and doing deals well. Where can you add the most value possible? And I'll give you an example. Let's Dave, I know that one of the things that you have is training realtors and educating realtors. That's in the playbook, right? In the conversion playbook. And so when I think about agents and I think about the changing dynamics of the agent market, and I stop and I think, how can I add more value? This is currently now tapping on about 7,000 loan officer surveys, and this is one of our high performance diagnostics. So this is question 20. Do you conduct partnership planning sessions at least monthly with your referral partners? And you can see right here that 13% of the industry is saying it does, and 87% of the industry is saying it does not. Right after this Zoom presentation today in our Facebook Live session with Dave and you guys, I'm going to be doing an interview with a loan originator and his real estate agent. The agent went from $8 million a year to $40 million in sales, and the loan officer gets 100% of every buyer and 100% of every seller's brain to have a conversation about mortgage planning and mortgage advice. And this agent and this loan officer are going to be at mastery together, and it is the ultimate lender-agent relationship. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And these guys meet every single month for an hour and a half to 2 hours to do nothing other than think strategically about how to continue to push the business. The next question is, do you do annual business reviews with your partners? Same statistics, varying just about 2 degrees, that a little bit more do the annuals, but very few do the monthlies. And you can see here that, that the by and large, it's probably, I'm guessing maybe 84, 85% of the industry doesn't even meet with their partners once a year. So I think that the 50-foot wave here is to really understand that I can't expect the #1 conversion optic in the world is to move from a lead-based model to a referral-based model. And the only way you can move from a lead-based model to a referral-based model is deepen your relationship with the people that are referring the people to you that you need to convert. You want to watch your conversion optics skyrocket? We have to move away from lead generation, and we have to move squarely into one-to-one referrals. Now watch this. Because these two don't settle very well, then only 11% of originators have a weekly acquisition strategy to generate buyer referrals. And so 89%, if you look at this, 89% of the industry doesn't even have a strategy to generate referrals every single week. So this is a huge question, and it's a question that you guys have to really take a look at. You've got to ask yourself, how am I connecting? And Dave, I don't know if you have any questions posted on that, but I think this is where it all starts, man. And if you don't have the referral partnerships dialed, and you're not adding as much value as you can through partnership planning, you cannot expect in the market to be different. So
no doubt. And I don't know if Marcy can get a poll question pushed, but I would love folks to just answer this. How often are you meeting with your realtor partners? Monthly, quarterly, annually, ad hoc, or never? And here's the deal, and I think the takeaway from Todd just now is, if you just do it consistently, monthly or quarterly, you are going to be radically different from every other professional. And then, someone had posted a question in our Facebook group literally this morning saying, hey, the referrals I'm getting from my agents, they're just not well set up. They're not good leads. They're not well positioned. Part of that is, yes, we have specific scripts. And if you check out our lead playbook, we talk about our lead conversion playbook. We talk about it. But if you are having monthly meetings with your realtors, you're going to figure it out. You're going to get it together. And by the way, realtors need you as a coach. I believe not only do you need to be a mortgage coach to your borrower, you need to be a mortgage coach and just a leadership coach to your agents. So I just can't emphasize enough how important that is. Let's see what questions have come in. Who is doing that? By the way, Mike Thomas, thanks for the question. We'll get to it. And Marcy, if you do get a poll question loaded, let me know. Back to you, Todd.
Yeah, so I would say right now that before we hit this second thing, I would say that this is a lifestyle decision. When you make a decision to connect and add value to your partners, you make a decision to eliminate people that are taking your business down or maybe aren't as productive. And so there's this stepping off point, right? It's XY stuff. It's like, if you have partners, quote, end quote, that you don't wake up in the morning thrilled to serve and like ideally connected with, you're not going to do the stuff that we know is going to preserve your business going into the future. It is impossible to wake up fired up to have partnership discussions with people that you serve if you fundamentally don't have a deep love and excitement for those people. I saw in the lead conversion playbook, one of the things that I brought to the market, years ago, which is this idea of just bring humanity back into the sale. How do we have this humanness in the face of all of this change that's going on? And I need to, I am not technology avoidant. I am technology suspicious, and I am technology resistant as it relates to the facts of one-on-one personal business management. Whether it's you with a borrower, you with an agent, I embrace technology, but I'm going to tell you right now, the world isn't there yet. And so you have to understand this second decision. And the second decision—
Todd, yeah. Real quick, Marcy was able to load that poll question. She's going to push it. Folks, give us your feedback. Let us know, how often are you have planning sessions with your realtors? Marcy, if you could push that.
There it is.
Are you doing it monthly? Are you doing it quarterly? Are you doing it annually? Ad hoc is just, randomly, no particular rhythm to it. And then, of course, never is an option.
Be honest. Super honest.
Be honest. So we'll give you just a couple more seconds for those of you that are participating. Remember, one of the reasons why I brought this to Zoom is so it could be more interactive, more mastermind-y. I even have a vision on how I'll be able to bring people in and you'll be on video engaging with Todd and myself. I don't know if we'll pull that off on today's call. So Marcy, will you let us know what the results are so far? Go ahead and take it down and let us know what the results are. Let's see if Marcy can push that. Boom. So,
thanks for being honest, number one.
Exactly.
This syncs up with our data. This syncs up with the data. Only 10% are doing it monthly, 14% quarterly, very small percentage doing it annually. Six out of 10, essentially, Dave, are just kind of ad hoc in it.
Yeah. So anyways, guys, there's an idea. Just that one idea would separate you, make you different, and help you have more of a partnership versus a vendor-like relationship. Back to you, Todd.
Okay, so watch how number two tees up number one and what Marcy just did and what you guys surveyed us, gave us the survey results on. So the question is, how can you deepen your conversations and how can you create unprecedented levels of trust? Okay, that is a disruptive selling decision. How can I deepen my conversations and create unprecedented levels of trust? I was talking with a chief production executive yesterday, face-to-face for 90 minutes in Newport Beach. And I'm going to tell you that this individual believes that in the next 6 to 18 months, originators are going to play a role in looking at aligning borrower conversation and digital integration to the point where the deeper the conversation, the less digital may or may not be required. And the shallower the conversation, the more digital will be necessary. It's a very interesting kind of palette of what can be seen as a merging of how do we have conversation and use technology. We already know that just the technology of being able to upload documentation and creating digital packages, we already know that increases productivity on behalf of LOs. We know that LOs that use technological systems to upload and provide borrower access to getting things in. We already know that they're more productive in terms of goal setting. We know they're doing more volume. So this is never going to be a question about technology versus trust. It's going to be, does the world trust technology? And at what point do they trust it and not trust you? And what does that look like? So when I think about deepening conversations and I think about creating unprecedented levels of trust, if we stay on the agent kind of track for a second, we can take a look at 5 simple questions. And what I would do if I were you is I would do a mid-level face-to-face with every one of your agent partners, any partner for that matter, builders and otherwise. But just since we're talking about agents and we're talking about local impact, if you knew the answers to these 5 questions, you would be able to create unprecedented value, which is question number 1. And so if we don't have the questions defined, if we don't know the answers to, for example, and these may not be all the questions and you may want to replace a few of these, but it's interesting that if you don't know where your partners want to be in a year or 2, there's no way you can add value in the now. But if you have a dialogue around question number 3, if you have a dialogue around question number 4, if you don't have enough time and all you do is ask question number 2, you start to see yourself as a valuable resource, and therefore then that you become unique in the marketplace. And the more unique you are because you're creating value, the more you will have a referral relationship that won't be lead centric. It'll be highly referred. It'll be like dyed in the wool referred. It'll be like come hell or high water, as an agent to a buyer, you need to speak with whomever. And there's lots of things we're going to roll at Mastery in terms of using video digitalization, in terms of referral management. How do we equip agents to properly refer without making them learn a script? What are some of the ways that we're going to release that stuff at Mastery? But the bottom line is, I mean, it'd be great to have a poll at some point, Dave, on do you know any of these answers about any of the clients that you call partners that you serve? And I think probably the answer is going to be starkingly shocking.
Yeah, so guys, you could literally in chat just yes or no. And, you know, do you feel like the agents that you do business with, you know the answer to these questions? And if you feel like you do, then you really do have a meaningful relationship. And if the answer is no, you got another takeaway. Have these meetings, have the answer to these questions. One person said, hey, a lot of my realtors don't want to have that kind of accountability. They don't want to have a monthly meeting with me. And you know, by the way, not everybody will, but I would tell you a lot do. But it really comes down to, do you know the answer to these questions, so that when you're meeting with them, it's valuable for them. It's not just you pitching. It's not you talking. It's valuable for them. So if you know the answers, let us know.
Well, and the other thing too, Dave, is we got 3 more questions in 30 minutes that we need to roll through. And I'm going to tell you, they're all connected, guys. If you're saying in chat, most of my realtors don't want to get that real, that deep, they don't want to blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you right now that you haven't set the stage for the real value proposition that comes out of knowing the answers to these questions. I don't know a real estate agent on the planet that wouldn't be open to you as a strategic partner providing an idea or 2 or 3 every 2 to 3 months that could change their business forever. I just don't know, except for the ones that probably aren't worth working with. When I sit here and think about this interview that we're going to have at Sales Mastery on the ultimate lender agent partnership, I got to tell you right now, that's all these guys do. And what makes it unique is that the agent and the originator thrive on that partnership because of these questions. And so let me continue to go through this a little bit. And I want you to realize, in the overall conquest of trust, one of the things that we're finding is that there is a real give and take. There's a little bit of a tug of war going on right now in the financial services sector with regard to technology and trust. And so if trust is the thing we're leading with, according to Benioff at Salesforce, then the question is, what does the world say about trust and people, and what does the world say about trust and technology? So this is a massive worldwide project that we have been working with this firm on, and this is tech versus people. And it says in the upper left-hand corner, human touch matters more in most markets. Markets who find working with real people using the latest technology, or both, important when choosing a financial services company. So 18 out of 28 markets find working with real people more important than using the latest technology. 7 out of 28 find using the latest technology more important than working with real people, and 3 markets were tied. So all you have to do is look at the US, North America, Canada, Alaska, all the northern territories, and if you look at the upper right-hand corner, the light blue is latest technology and real people, and the dark blue, so light blue down here in South America is technology. The India, Venezuela, Mexico is both. They rely on technology and people. But if we look at United States, it's people. If we look at Canada, it's people. If we look at Australia, it's people. And so I want you to understand that the people are more important than the technology. But you got to have the technology, Dave, to your point earlier. And here's what's interesting. When we look at the data coming in, user experience rates #1. So back to your playbook, back to the conversion playbook, I would bet the farm on the user experience. 83% say the reason they choose a financial services company is because of the user experience. 81% specifically say they make it easy to work with real people, and only 79% say that they use the latest and greatest technology. This is a very powerful slide as we think about, what are we doing today to make sure we keep the connection super, super tight on the human side, and then use the technology to put a bow around the experience. That's what we have to do. So that's number 2. Decision number 3. How can you follow up more creatively? And what is your ultimate conversion strategy? And my question would be, which one comes first? You know, the thing that comes first is you got to make a decision if you're going to follow a lead-based model or a referral-based model. And when you think about when I'm looking through I think there was 8 originators or so that were kind of showcased on some of their conversion strategies in the conversion playbook. I thought it was unique that a lot of it had to do with where are we deciding to follow up. And I think that one of the questions that I saw posed on some of the Facebook stuff, Dave, in your group, in your productivity mastermind, is what do I do to make sure that I'm converting at the highest level possible? Because sometimes it feels like I'm just following up. Just following up doesn't make for a rich conversion experience. It helps, but the question is, with whom am I following up? And the ultimate conversion strategy, this might surprise you. It may even sound foreign. The ultimate conversion strategy is remove yourself 100% from a lead-based model and put yourself into a 100% one-to-one referral model. If you do that thing alone and then have strategic follow-up, your conversion will triple. And I promise you that. So Dave, I want you to unpack this a little bit with your group right now as we discuss this. And it's huge. It's a huge, huge idea.
Well, two things. You know, first of all, that experience and the follow-up, the best of the best loan officers are crushing it with this.
Yeah.
And they are, when they deliver rates and fees, again, I am Mr. Mortgage Coach, but it is just so true. They're delivering that with a total cost analysis, not because of the technology, although you need to deliver technology to deliver this level of service, but because of the service. They want to help a family go from confusion to clarity. And then throughout that process, they want to keep them that. Because when you meet with someone, let's say you meet face-to-face, which Todd is proposing, or let's say second best to that, it's video enabled so that you're connecting emotionally if you couldn't meet them face-to-face. And now when you follow up, if you are not using multi-channel communication, if you are not delivering purchase options in a platform like a mortgage coach, you just can't possibly be optimizing your conversion. Now, again, Todd, I know there's a lot of other creative strategies, and I don't know if you're going to have time in the next 18 minutes to unpack the other 2 and share some of those unique strategies, but I'll leave that to you to figure out.
I think that what I want to say to everybody, because the time is tight, we're going to unpack this at Sales Mastery with not only this agent and this originator, but we're going to have an entire panel on conversion. I'm going to tell you right now that what's very interesting is that the higher face-to-face meetings as a percentage of what you do goes. And we talked about this 3 months ago, Dave, on our previous webinar, and I even posted I think an article from Entrepreneur Magazine on 10xing your business. Starts with 10xing your face-to-face meetings. What I want to say to you is there's a direct relationship between face-to-face meetings and conversion. And I know you got some powerful users in the mastermind group. A lot of them grew up in the high trust and mortgage coach ecosystem. And I'm going to tell you right now that these guys buy a hook, line, and sinker. That my ultimate value proposition has to be that consultation. And when you look at some of these companies trying to get to 8-minute apps and 12-minute guarantees and this, that, and the other thing, there's so much fine print and there's so much noise behind the scenes on that it really isn't happening. And even though there's large volume with that technology push and speed, there isn't there isn't high conversion. So your piece of the world, Dave, is the local mortgage, lender. And so local is relationship. And that means that you have to have that. So I guess the thing I want to say here is, what are you attempting to convert? Are you attempting to convert a lead, or are you attempting to convert a referral? And there's a big difference, right? And then the question that I would have is, what is that handoff strategy that you have with whomever it is that is referring? And I would say, what is your strategy so that you don't have to follow up as much and as frequently, which is normally what you have to do with a lead, and you can follow up less frequently and more deliberately with a referral, barring, any time crunch in terms of, needing to have their approval done today or tomorrow or whatever. And so I want to make sure that, so a couple things we know. We know that the industry absolutely sucks at following up. So we can just start with that, Dave, that what is your follow-up plan? And, you look at guys like Jeremy Forcier, and you look at some of these guys that, that have Tuesdays for this and Wednesdays for that and Thursdays for that. That is all well and good. What is that timing? But I want to just rise above that and say the 50-foot wave is, I don't want to be following up with people that don't have a high probability of converting, because that is a low conversion, high expense business model. And if I can figure out this fourth thing that I'm going to share with you right now, and I marry it up with the third thing, this decision on how can I redefine my follow-up strategy, it's lights out. It's lights out for you as an originator. It's lights out for, the agents that you serve. But in terms of following up, I think there's no hard and fast rules. But the big question is, what's next? So for every individual, what's next, and when does next happen? Next could be tomorrow. Next could be this Friday. Next could be a week from today. But what is next? And then the ultimate goal is to manage next. That's all follow-up really is. But the key thing here, Dave, is, am I following up with the right human capital? Am I following up with people that are in a model that is defiantly different than just a simple lead generation model?
Well, I want to make sure we rock out these two next decisions, so I'm not going to interrupt you until we get to the tail end. Let's
okay, decision number 4. Decision number 4 is flip the script and become attractive in the marketplace. I think you can bet the farm on this. I think that this strategy alone is the strategy that makes all of the previous 3 decisions easier to navigate and easier to make. And when I say flip the script, what I'm talking about is, I'm really talking about making a decision to really turn and look the other way and build this B2B model for your referrals. What I mean by B2B is, I mean to start paying attention. I again heard from this individual yesterday, the chief objective that his company has is to have 70% of their purchase business coming specifically from business to business marketing. And so, I mentioned that 2 years ago at Mastery. I said, I think it's going to be the future. And I think loan originators that do not get this are going to be left in the dust. And so the B2B model says very simply that every loan that you're involved in navigating a decision right now on is a loan that should be economically viable in terms of a referral network, right? So you've got to pay attention when you're taking an application. You got to pay attention when you're profiling a borrower, whether it's a deep planning analysis or a lovingly called page 5 of the application, whatever. I want to make sure that I understand that I've got to pay attention to these relationships. If I want a place in the world, if I want a future state where conversion is high, price pressure is low, and referability is insane, I've got to take my eyes off the normal market, which is the agent market. I got to understand that I'm still going to serve that market, but I got to put my eyes on these markets. And here's where we go back to decision number one. If I'm going to answer the question, how do I add radical value to the marketplace? Okay, that marketplace being the purchase marketplace, that marketplace involving agents. How do I do that? I have to do it in the B2B model. And what it looks like is, it looks like when I think about the economics, if I got 50 B2B partners, so this could be a financial planner, a CPA, it could be a human resource director, it could be a small business owner, entrepreneur, it could be a pastor, it could be an insurance agent, it could be whatever. And they have influence over 100 people. I potentially can influence 5,000 buyers in a calendar year. And I think about that and I think, okay, so if that is true, then what does that look like if 10% of them need a loan? Okay, and my average loan amount is what it is in America. I've got $100 million in volume with just 50 partners that can influence 100 people, 100 employees, 100 parishioners, 100 donors, whatever the case might be. And what we know from this is that 53% of that group need a referral to a real estate agent. And so out of the 500, it's 263 or so actually need, I believe 263 is the right number, a referral to an agent, 265. So if I take the 265 and let's say a commission, on a coastal region, maybe a high density region, 15,000 aside, there's $4 million in economic value that I'm bringing to the marketplace. So I go back to question number one, how can I add the most value possible? I add the most value possible by being a absolutely irreplaceable referral partner of the people that I'm trying to serve in a way that nobody is serving anyway. And the ultimate insurance policy, you guys got to hear this. How do I absolutely 100% future-proof my business? It's right here. It's this slide. This slide alone is how you future-proof your business. So if you're not doing this because you're not paying attention to the buyer profiles in every loan, and if you're not asking the deep enough questions about influence and the deep enough questions about networks and the deep enough questions about value, we're leaving millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in economic revenue on the table. So I'm saying that is absolutely number four, and it has to be answered, Dave. And then number five is, how do you make your thank yous last forever? So I think disruptive selling is, there's no more rubber stamped closing gifts. There's no more, we do this for every borrower. There is a deep desire to understand. If you want to execute number four, you have to understand number five. How do you make your thank you last forever? That is a disruptive question. How do you make your thank you last forever? So I'm going to show you something real quick. I think this will show up. So that's a painting on my wall. It's a lion, and it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of art. You can see the colors and everything on there. And every time I look at that, that lion, I think of my friend Shane Reed, who had that lion painted for me after Sales Mastery 2015, when I had the cage on stage and I talked about the lion in the cage. And he sent me that as a thank you gift. And every time I look at the lion, I think of Shane. And I want you to answer the question, what does your client look at that what does your client look at that makes them think about you forever? So I interviewed Michael Harrington with Prime Lending a couple months ago, and I'm going to show you something right now. This is my desk, and this is the interview with Michael. And I want you to notice to the right of my screen is a picture of a King Air taking off over a runway, and that piece of art was sent to me by Michael as a thank you for masterclass. And you sit here and you look at this, and he had engaging conversation with me. We're both pilots, talked about our planes, and he literally had one of his clients' 14-year-old daughters paint this watercolor for me. This is on one of my desks. Every time I'm at that desk and I look at that picture, I think of Michael Harrington. And so the decision you have to look at is you have to look at, how do I make my thank yous so unique and so different that I win? And the client thinks of me every time they see it. Most of the thank you gifts we send get consumed or thrown away, and they're not utilized in the way that brings us alive. So those are the 5, Dave.
So let's do this. Let's make sure folks know how to get signed up for Mastery. I want to make sure they know that, and then we'll see if we have time at the end for some takeaways, closing thoughts, and I do have one script I'd like to get out of you.
Cool. So thanks, Dave. Mastery is called Game Changers this year. It's the 10th through the 13th of October. Marriott Marquis in San Diego. We're going to have 2,000 people there. We've got 1,922 reservations right now with our B2B models and our clients, and so we're super excited about the event. What we're going to do special for Mortgage Coach is 3 things. If you are a Mortgage Coach user, you are going to get a $250 discount off the retail price of Mastery. So your ticket price will be $745. We are going to give you a $200 free upgrade to the Sales Mastery digital experience, meaning that when the event is over, you will have the entire event to use as an implementation track. You'll have the videos, you'll have the audios, you'll have all of that digitally. And so we're going to give that to you. And then as soon as you sign up, I have a brand new 80-minute video series called The 5 Steps to Unlock Your Potential. Nothing I talked about today, all brand new information that as soon as you sign up, you'll have an access code to that, and you'll be able to go through that video program before you come to Mastery. And I think it's going to bring the experience alive. Last year, we did a survey 90 days after the event, and this was the reported average increase in income a month from Sales Mastery attendees last year. David Paley is the concierge for Mortgage Coach. You can reach him at david.paley@itrust.com. We're going to have a link out to the Mortgage Coach community within about an hour of this call being done, and everything I just explained here will be on that link, and you'll be able to see that. Dave, we're excited about having the Mortgage Coach community at Mastery, especially as we think about conversion and we think about disruption. You guys are ahead of the curve in so many ways, and you and me together, 26 years at Sales Mastery, it's going to be a lot of fun.
No doubt. So folks, a lot of questions have come in. If you're watching this in YouTube, a link down below to sign up and get Mortgage Coach benefits, or reach out to David Paley. A lot of you, and I even saw it on Facebook, asked for the conversion playbook. It's in my LinkedIn profile, but I put a link down below to that. Todd, as always, you crush it. I think we can both agree that annual reviews are one of the most valuable things that a loan officer could do to serve a family after the close of escrow, and to help them, really achieve their goals with Mortgage Coach and achieve their goals by building wealth with real estate. So, any comments on just how important it is to be, not just say you're going to do an annual review and you're going to manage the mortgage, but to actually do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a huge opportunity here to offer a commitment that separates you from the pack, and the decision is, how do you package you? And what makes you unique and what makes you different is that you're going to own the annual mortgage review. And the way to own that is at closing, to make sure you map that out in your CRM for at least the next 10 years, and you map it out to recur every 12 months. And the buyer knows that you are going to every year have an update call with them to make sure that their mortgage is working for them instead of them working for it. The ultimate goal in America is to not have debt. And the households that we serve, 78% of households in America claim that having financial challenges is the hardest thing in their life from a stress standpoint. And yet almost everybody needs a mortgage to buy the American dream. And so if you can come in as that partner and help them always make wise choices and always be a step ahead of the curve, any of the competitors you have that don't do it, they can't stand a chance to win the business like you can if you provide that.
So one script, try to keep it to a minute. Someone had asked, the way I'm getting referred is just not great. And you always You have a couple scripts that I've heard over the time, you know, about, hey, did your loan officer provide you with the total cost analysis to save you? I can't remember exactly how you did it, but could you give the mortgage coach community a gift because they're so uniquely positioned to deliver value on a script that would, you know, that they should use when getting one of their borrowers to call a mortgage coach? Any quick scripts you can provide?
So this is the borrower?
Yeah, the realtor is getting one of their, you know, pre-qual buyers to call a mortgage coach. Give us a flavor for what that scripting would sound like.
So I would, in that regard, it would sound something like this. Remember in 5 stars, we talk about story selling. So how I'm different is, so a realtor can say to a buyer, most lenders are happy to quote you a rate and tell you how much it will cost to get your loan. How Dave is different at Mortgage Coach is he'll spend 30 to 45 minutes with you, 10 to 15 of those minutes discovering your goals and specifically outlining a mortgage strategy for you. Dave believes that the lowest price with the wrong strategy can actually cost you more than a slightly higher price with the right strategy. Somewhere in between there is where his expertise lies. You need to spend 30 minutes with him.
And by the way, guys, did you hear that? So an 8th in rate, if you're getting the right strategy, and if you're following everything in the lead conversion playbook, is nothing. An 1/8 and a quarter in rate, if you're really making the right mortgage decision, you've got someone that, you know, uses Rate Watch and make sure that you have a great Rate Watch strategy. You have someone that's going to manage your mortgage over time so that you're not only getting the best loan now, but in the future. Again, that's how you optimize conversion. First of all, educate your realtor on this so that they believe it, they've experienced, they get it, and then train them on how to refer you, because that is strategy number 1 when it comes to optimizing conversion. So go ahead, Tom.
I think another polling question would be interesting. I know we're a minute over, but another polling question would be interesting at some time in the future. What percentage of the Mortgage Coach community has sat down with their real estate agents and done a complete buyer analysis with a TCA to show the agents the power of what they do that is different? I'd love to know the answer to that.
Yeah, well, we teach it a lot. But by the way, Marcy, if you could make sure we're going to ask that question next Tuesday, because I want to know.
I love it.
And by the way, if you have not met with your best realtors and shown them how you're unique, how you're valuable, and by the way, how that transitions into urgency. Like right. Their first-time home buyers will buy the house faster because they're more clear on the value. Their move-up buyers will buy the house faster. When they're making an offer for a buyer, the buyer will pay the price needed because they'll understand the cost of waiting. So when you meet with realtors, make sure you educate them, make sure they're well scripted. And Todd, you crushed it. Marcy, I don't know if you could push the poll question at the end. I'd love to know what people thought of today's call. Did we surpass their expectations with value? Did they get a few takeaways? If we do have a poll question, just to wrap this up, please push that, Marcy. And Todd, I would love to get you on the calendar again soon and have you as a guest, either on our Friday call or our Tuesday call soon. You up for it?
Good. Love it. Down.
All right, guys. This call is a wrap. Take care, Mr. Duncan.
Thanks, buddy. See you.
Bye.
Bye.